This is Steve Harris from Iron Maiden and British Lion. You're listening to Andrew McCasebid from Scars and Guitars.
G'day everybody, welcome to the show. It's a real treat to bring you a conversation with former Celtic Frost guitarist Oliver Amberg. Now the reason I reached out to Oliver is because he was the guitarist on one of metal's most derided albums. I'm talking about Cold Lake. Released back in 1988, I don't think there's another album that has undergone as much scrutiny to the point where poor old Tom G. Warrior, has actually disowned the album and the masters no longer exist. But it was very formative in my experience as an extreme metal fan, and I know that I'm not alone on that. I know many of you out there feel the same way. So this conversation is an opportunity to get to the bottom of the recording process, the demoing, the atmosphere in the studio, the production. It's all on the table. Oliver's contribution to music is ongoing, as you'll hear throughout the conversation. It's an absolute pleasure to have him on the show. He's a fantastic fella. So here he is, Oliver Amberg.
Good morning, Andrew.
G'day, mate. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Right from the bat, I'm going to say I really appreciate you giving me any time to have to talk about something which is in your distant past.
Yeah, it is.
You get hit up about it quite often, though, I take it. People are interested.
Yeah. Actually, since 2 years, many people ask me about Cold Lake. And yeah, I'm surprised a bit, but it's great to have some people enjoying Cold Lake, you know. I have many positive feedbacks, which weren't here back then.
Yeah, I feel I had a chat to Tom not too long ago about it all, and you know what his view is on it. He really feels strongly that it shouldn't be mentioned in the same words as the other albums in the catalogue.
Yeah.
However, from the fans' perspective, I feel like as though it's an album that was unjustified, not even unfairly, but unjustifiably pillared, because it wasn't that different to the rest of the catalogue. And it was one of the first Celtic Frost recordings that I got into, and it's one of my favourite albums of all time. It's a soundtrack to my youth, you see. And
that's fantastic,
yeah. And I feel like a lot of people fall into that category as well. We in far-flung Australia, we didn't have the media the way that people in North America and Europe experienced it. So we could get an album without any context, and if we liked it, we liked it. Whereas in Britain, Europe and North America, I think there was all these tastemakers and these shithead journalists who had no other or any opportunity to tear a band down. They did. And I think you guys were a victim of that. Do you reckon that's true? That's my take on it. But do you feel like as though you were victimized?
Yeah, I think so. And I strongly believe that if there would be a different picture on the back of the album, reactions wouldn't be that harsh at all. And even back then, many people liked it. Tom liked it a lot. But then the success didn't arise as we expected, to be honest. And then, it was bad. From one day to the other, it was a bad album. And I never felt like that. I felt that there were mistakes, like in the graphics department, in the photographs department, and the production was not overwhelming. I don't know if you ever heard the demos.
No, I never heard them. I didn't even know they were out there. So there you go.
I will send you the demos later on, and they sound much better. They're much heavier, and the heaviness went away a little bit. But actually, when you listen to the album without a cover, without nothing, it has some really decent, good songs. I like them still, And of course, it was a shock because I think metal fans in general are sometimes really narrow-minded. It has to be like that or like that. Just to remember the day when Metallica cut off their hair, it was like, it can't be true. It's not the open-minded gang of the music genre people out there, and I think that was a shock, especially when they saw Tom, because Tom was Celtic Frost. We were newbies, not really relevant back then. And I think that made that made us look bad, but we didn't deserve that.
No, you didn't. No, but
No.
you came with quite a portfolio, though. You were a member of Coroner, weren't you?
Yeah, I was a former member, right? I was like in Coroner Mark 1. I played together with Marky Edelman, the drummer, and it was a totally different thing. It was more like Iron Maiden, Queensryche, stuff like that. And then the other guys left, and Marky and I decided to keep on with Coroner as a duo. And we even did a 3-track demo where I sang and played guitar and bass, and he played drums. And then it just fell apart somehow. And Marky found Tommy and Ron, and then that was the forming of Coroner as you know it from the records.
Okay. So was that your introduction to Tom through Coroner?
Yes, yeah, right.
Yep.
You know, Switzerland is so tiny, and the metal community back then was even smaller. So everybody knew everybody, and there was a famous metal disco in a little place in Switzerland, and all the guys met once in a while there and listening to music. And there was Tom with Hellhammer back then. We were Coroner, and it was a healthy competition. You know, it was not like this always this sweet and always like cheering momentum, but it was more a competition. And we are better than you, and we are better than you, and that was fun. So I knew Tom a long time before, and I even auditioned for Hellhammer once. But hey, it's such a long time back, and my mind is sometimes a little bit dazed.
Yeah. That's a good bit of history there. I don't know whether that's on record out in the public that you had auditioned for Hellhammer, and that changes the context of your introduction into Celtic Frost somewhat. So in terms of your recruitment, were you somebody that Tom had been talking to for a few years prior to joining the band, and was, you know what I mean, was there always a bit of an entry at some point likely?
Oh, we were always in contact, but not regarding that I could ever play in Celtic Frost. But when I heard that Celtic Frost split up, literally split up, I just sent Tom a big photograph of mine with a sticky note on it, "How about me?" And that was it. And then we just met in a restaurant, talked about it, if we should make it happen again. So then we decided, let's carry on Celtic Frost. Not we, he decided. It was always his band. He decided to carry on with me. And the fun thing is we never played together before, except for Hellhammer, for the audition. You know, but that was already way back then, like maybe 4 years later or 6 years later, something like that.
So the shift from, as I said up top, okay, I don't think the shift from Into the Pandemonium to Cold Lake is as big as what people make out.
Yeah.
Now, that's just my opinion, but I've been listening to the band for decades at this point. And I'm not saying that they're similar albums. I'm just saying it's not as big as the jump as what people make out. But that said, there is still a stylistic change. And was that something that happened during the demo phases, or did it more sort of evolve the way it turned out in the studio?
I think musically it was from the very beginning. We started to write those songs, and back then Tom never did the vocals before the studio, so we didn't really know what he will come up with. We rehearsed like the songs, but without the vocals most of the time. So in the studio, the vocals came in, and we were surprised as well because he changed his singing style very much. And the whole imagery that evolved later on. When we went to the bunker to rehearse, we were just like ordinary guys with normal hair and everything, and we didn't think about that too much. And then I think it was the time when all the hairspray bands came up. And I think Tom felt the need to have a change somehow, because I think for him it was really depressing to see Celtic Frost crumble. And he was then in love with his new wife, with Michelle, and probably he was too happy, a too happy person. So he let go a little bit, you know. He wasn't focused as he was before, and we guys, the youngsters, we were just a wild, crazy bunch, and we were okay with give us hairspray, no problem. Give us that, no problem. We just want to make music and to be loud and proud like that.
So he was, I've read all about, there's a lot of copy out there on the internet, giving some more context that he was in a better frame of mind, and there was a bit of drinking going on in the studio at the time, I understand, or that might just be internet lore or what have you, but it was
That was not a bit.
No.
It was not a bit.
No, okay.
It was a lot.
A lot. So it was a fun occasion. It was spontaneous, and you were enjoying each other's company.
Yeah, and we like Tom was the adult. Let's face it. He knew touring, he knew studio, he knew all that rock star bullshit. We didn't. We just had the first taste of it, and then it went wild. And I think not in a healthy way, especially when you talk about me. There were other members who had some issues, but I was really hard to deal with. I was not a fun person because there was like too much party and not enough focusing on the music. You know, I was sometimes shit-faced when I was on stage or in the studio, and I thought it's so cool. It's so rock and roll, but it was just it was not mature at all and not professional at all. So Tom had quite a hard time where during the touring. I think the studio went okay because I was aware I had to deliver, because we had scheduled. You can't fiddle around for hours on one part. So I was quite focused. But on tour, it was a different story.
Okay, so in terms of the producer is listed as Tony Platt and Carl Ulrich Walterbach, if I'm not mistaken. Did they? Because the production is garbage, to be honest with you. That's the only outright criticism I've got of it, is that the production, like, the guitar solos come in and they're twice as loud as the rhythm guitar track, this sort of thing. But it became part of its charm after a while, I suppose. You just accepted that was its sound. Did you recognise that was happening at the time, or was that only in retrospect?
I wasn't there when the album got mixed, so I was there for like 1 or 2 days. I just were visiting Tom, and he was there for the whole mixing process. But I felt I don't know how familiar you are with the work of Tony Platt.
Not the detail I think you're about to provide, so go for it. Yeah, give me some.
He did the AC/DC, he did Bob Marley, he did the Def Leppard stuff. And I think he took the job because it was a job, and not because he said, wow, this is a great band. And he was half-hearted at work, I would say. We had a lot of fun. He's a very cool guy, a nice guy, has a great sense of humor. He's British, good guy. But I think he wasn't into Celtic Frost at all. He made some money, and that's it. And Carl Ulrich Walterbach was only the owner of Noise Records. He didn't do anything. Okay. He just liked to have his name under every record. But I agree, Tony Platt would be able. I think AC/DC sounded quite decent back then.
Yeah, I wonder what happened. Yeah, it's because there's nothing wrong with the playing. The playing's on point. It's just the way it was captured. And then once, because as you know, once the mixing's rat shit, once that's bad, you can't fix it in mastering.
No, and the problem is Tom's guitar is just somewhere. You can barely hear it. And he was always the signature sound. So he really Tony liked me a lot and he liked my playing. So I think he pushed it too much. You know, I was too loud and Tom was not loud enough on the record.
Your playing is exemplary on that album, I must say. Look, Petty Obsession was my favourite song for years. You know, it was my pump-up song to play sport, to go to the gym. I'd listen to it loudly in the car. Does that song, you wrote that song, that's solely attributed to you. Is that one that you had for years, or did you come up with that song for the album?
Just for the album. Everything I wrote was just for the album. And I wrote a lot of Cold Lake.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you got Once They Were Eagles, you got the other big one, which is Cherry Orchids.
Yeah.
That survived. That song, I think, has survived criticism, you know, because it's got a lot of YouTube views, and I don't know whether it's ever featured as a part of a set since, but certainly Tom re-recorded it, if I'm not mistaken, for the Parched with Thirst I Am and Dying compilation. Yeah. There was a couple of songs that were, and that survived that process. So, wow, that's incredible. You came up with all of those songs through the demo phases.
Yeah. I'm pretty quick when it comes to songwriting.
The riff, the verse riff on Dance Sleazy is outstanding as well. So you just came up with that stuff, bang, it was just spontaneous.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's some incredible riffs there. Yeah. Downtown Hanoi is another one of yours.
I liked it a lot, yeah.
Yeah, it's a brilliant song. I remember he re-recorded that one there. Were there, okay, so you said there are some demos, but are there any others? Were there any songs that were recorded that didn't make the album?
No, we used everything. It's not like the situation when you heard we had 100 songs and we chosen the 8 best songs. We just had those songs. That's it.
What's your view on, or what can you share about the contribution of Kurt Victor Bryant and Stephen Priestley?
Kurt co-wrote some songs, and Kurt was actually a guitarist before. I brought Kurt and Steve into the band, actually. I knew them a long time before. They played together in a band called Lady Godiva. Okay. And Steve played in Celtic Frost before. So he was not a new member in that way. And Kurt was just like me. He was really into the party mood, and Steve was Steve. He was here. He was reading comics, and he was never the party animal at all. So he was quite focused.
You've mentioned the photos already, and you're right. They almost if the album didn't contain that background image, it almost half of the criticism wouldn't be there.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
They did this pants accident. It's ridiculous, you know. When Kurt's pants just ripped, and we didn't have the spare pants to use, and that's why he has an open.
You can see pants. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's as sexy as a piece of bread. It's not poison.
I agree. Yeah. Did you look at the photos after or did you even get a say in which photos were included in the portfolio?
Yeah, but that was mainly Tom's part.
And Tom signed off on it. Tom saw the photo and went, "Yeah, this will do. Let's do
it." Yeah.
Strange.
He was still the boss of the. He always was the boss of the band, you know.
So. Over the years, over the decades, I thought it must have been, you know, not to blame anybody specifically, but Carl Ulrich, for example, being the head of Noise. I know there was massive issues there with Noise and probably with Carl Ulrich directly. So I thought it might have been something that he did to try to take advantage of the glam, the hair metal thing that was going on in Los Angeles, but it wasn't. It was something it was quite organic from the sounds of things.
Yeah. And Carl was pleased with it, of course, because he wanted like a hit record with nice guys and good-looking guys with big hair. And Tom and all we had, he always walked around with the LA Guns t-shirt, maybe can you remember?
On the photos. Yeah.
He liked a lot of Tom's musical taste is really wide. You know, he likes from funk, disco to everything. He has a really wide genre of music that he likes, and he liked that hair metal too. Like the raw, not like Poison, but like LA Guns, etc.
Yeah, Cinderella, there were some good bands in that mix.
Yeah, of course, they were brilliant and they could play and everything.
Okay, so how quickly after it was released did you notice the backlash?
When we started touring, because the reviews were pretty good. Like there was a couple of bad reviews, but most of the reviews from at German magazines, they're pretty good. Like, finally they have decent solos and blah blah blah, and we got good reception. But when we started tour in Edinburgh, and people were nice, and there came also in the States, people showed up just to have the whole gig. They stood in the front row and were just pointing the finger at us for the whole gig.
Wow.
And we had some people that really were, I think we had some new fans, you know, that weren't maybe in the old Frost, but in the new Frost, they were very happy and we had a great time with them. But the old hardcore fans, they gave us a hard time. And Tom once freaked out and really kicked one guy who always were rattling on his mic stand. And it was not a nice atmosphere, to say it that way.
Okay, that being said, if it was I know the UK audiences can be pretty reactive. You recorded live at the Hammersmith Odeon, and that's to this day, it's the only official visual representation of the band. Why was a decision made to record there and that gig?
I think because that's just a guess. I really don't know. I think Ulrich Walterbach thought that we could make it. Why? I don't know. And he gave some money. That's what I guess, but I'm not sure, to make this video. And we said, of course, yes. Come on, it's the Hammersmith Odeon. It's a piece of history. Everybody played there, and we thought it's a great opportunity to have. But to be brutally honest, I can't remember really clearly why and what happened behind the scenes, how we came to this movie at all.
What's your recollection of the gig itself?
It was. I personally had a lot of technical difficulties, and the guy from Destruction had to give me his guitar pedals and stuff. It was not good for me, but it was an enjoyable gig, and the crowd was decent. It was okay. You know, I wish more people would show up and there would be more enthusiastic reactions, but it was okay. So for me, it was like really to stand on that particular stage was just an honor. I was like, whoa, I'm playing the Hammersmith Odeon, and many people showed up backstage, girls, cool, sex, and people like that, and I felt good, of course. It's like, ooh, that's great. And when I watch the video, it had a lot of cringe moments just when I look at me, because I was not really fit, and I wished I would be the person that I'm now back then, you know, with all the knowledge and the normal behavior.
You're talking about your approach to the guitar solos on the recording, or something else? No,
I think just, you know, I could do so much more if I would concentrate on my playing, on the music, and not as much on the party side or backstage hanging out with other musicians. That's really, it's an itch that I have, because I always say to myself, I could have done it so much better back then. Why didn't I do it? It was my chance, and I just blew it.
But you were young and in the moment.
So. Yeah, it's always like, it's just like, why did I do that? It's like a car accident. You can think about it. If I wouldn't have drove to this place, it wouldn't happen. Yeah. It doesn't make sense, but it's nagging on you. It's like, oh man, I wish I could have done a second record with Tom, and the third, and it was, for me, it was like 1.5 years. It was great, and then it was like, it's gone. Bye-bye. And yeah, it hurts.
Did the tour, did the tour finish? In other words, did you play all of the dates that were scheduled?
Yeah.
Okay, so what happened after that? Did you reconvene and start talking about the follow-up or a follow-up?
Then it became odd. Then it became really odd. One day Kurt called me and said, I'll bring you over your guitars and your stuff from the rehearsal room. You're not in the band anymore. And I was like, okay, good. And then we had a long phase of quiet moments, Tom and I. We didn't talk to each other anymore. I was really pissed off, of course, because I felt like he did me bad, and he had his reasons, of course, why. And I'm not even sure if he like called me or something to tell me that I'm out. I just remember Kurt calling me to say, I'll bring you your stuff at home to your place, and that's it.
So how long was the break between when you left the band or what have you and reconnecting with Tom?
Maybe only 10 years, something like that. Quite a while. I think we met once or twice in Zurich, just by accident, and it was like, hey, good. It was friendly, but not like good to see you. I was pissed off. He knew it, and I had like to make peace with myself and with the whole situation. And to start to realize not to blame others for what I have done wrong.
Yeah, that's one perspective, isn't it? Yeah, it's as I said to Tom, as I've said to you now, and I'll say it twice. I thought it was a great album, and it had a tremendous impact on my growth as a metal fan, if you like. It was I've always been into extreme music, and I think a lot of people are like me that love extreme music, but at the same time we're musicians. So we do like a bit of variety, and with Cold Lake presenting just a slightly different side. Again, I maintain I don't think it's a completely different album to what came before or even afterwards. But for you, did you dust yourself off afterwards, and did you try to join another band?
I had another band actually right afterwards. It was Licking a Promise, and Dominic Steiner was in the band too. He played on Megatherion of Celtic Frost bass. So it was like a little bit Celtic Frost family in the band. And we were much like the classic rock, like Hammersmith, Whitesnake, stuff like that. It was just something totally different. And we even had a management deal with the same management as Celtic Frost, which didn't work out well at all. So they made a lot of promises, but it never happened. Marillion Drummers should have produced our album, but we never made it over a demo. We just made a demo with like 7 songs or something. And then that was almost after another year with that band, it was over. And then I was like, ooh, I don't feel the need to have a band anymore. Then I made a pretty long break from music. I was just playing for myself, and I felt it wouldn't work out in any other configuration.
Okay, right, yeah. But you're clearly a musician these days. So I can tell your room looks a bit like mine here. So you're playing back in bands and you're active?
I released many albums and EPs, singles during the last years. I had a band called Kissing Lucifer, who released like 4 albums or 5. Now I have a band called Dead People's Clothes with another singer and a drummer. And I release solo stuff, which is not metal at all. It's more like Americana, like Tom Petty stuff, like really good songs and a lot of guitars, of course, because I love guitars, as you can see.
No, that's great. Yeah, no,
I never stopped making music, actually, and I did some film music as well. Yeah, I was never away, but not noticed.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that happens. Yeah. Is Cold Lake the most prominent thing? You know what I mean? Like, is that the most, yeah.
Yeah, it's the only thing that people are interested in. It's always,
Yeah, it happens. Yeah.
tell me about Cold Lake. And yeah, I get it. It's the only thing that people know about me.
What given you were responsible for so much of the songwriting on Cold Lake, did you ever reimagine or play some of that material again?
I released a swing version of Cherry Orchards with a horn section, everything.
Okay,
I'll send you. I'll send you a link.
That's good. Yeah, yeah.
No, because we had the idea to re-record some stuff of that area, but when I talked to Tom with it, he wasn't a fan of it at all. So I thought, no, it's not fun to annoy somebody just to have a couple of releases, So I said, it's okay. I did Cherry Orchards as a swing version with another singer, and I think we leave it like that. It's the best.
Did you have any, did somebody reach out to you from a prominent band and check if you were interested to join them? I mean, you're still an accomplished player in those days, and you were prominent enough. So
no, nobody wants to play with me anymore. Never. That's yeah.
What about recently with you're smack bang in the middle of Europe there, and that's as far as I can see, as I say, in far-flung Australia here, that's the epicenter of extreme metal, really. A lot of it does come from Florida, I get that, but every European country has a significant scene. Switzerland's produced, there's a few from Switzerland alone. So do you get contacted and asked to do reprise solos or contribute?
I worked together with Mary Tadic. I don't know if you know her, Mary Tadic. She was the violinist of Helvetia.
Oh, okay. Well, I know Helvetia, yeah. Great band.
Yeah. And we are good friends, and I helped her out on one album with all the guitars and some bass and some arrangement, and I produced her last single. So she's the only one that approached me like, would you like to do something with me? Or could you play guitar on my track? Besides one guy from Germany who wanted a Cold Lake solo on his record, which I was very happy to play, of course. And
what was that? What was that called? Because I'll check that out, yeah.
I can't recall it. You don't want to hear it.
What a name is it?
No, it's a guy who has a lot of money, and he always hires musicians that are hireable,
Yeah, they're around, those guys. Yeah, yeah. Well, if it makes you feel any better, my friend who passed away, Stuart Ansters from Cradle of Filth, he was out of the band almost 20 years before I contacted him, and I was the first person to do so, first journalist to do so. It's like metal fans they're a weird bunch, metal fans, because they're devoted, but they don't get into the nuance and the detail of what's going on in my experience. Honestly, I feel like my audience is different. Of course I do. But that's because they know that I have interviews with people like you and Stuart. And they know that's I have all sorts of people that I want to have on the show that just did one album here or there or what have you. But it's the contribution that I think is important overall, and the recognition too that you should receive after the fact. You'll see in the comments section when this goes onto YouTube that you'll have a lot of support. I know that. I'm not going to predict the future. I don't know a crystal ball. But I just feel like as though having conversations like this is an opportunity to peel off the layer and to get to the bottom of some things and to actually understand that it is a legitimate and significant artifact, your contribution to Celtic Frost, and it is worth celebrating.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. As an, it's good that like time heals the wounds, and it's fun to have a lot of people just coming at me and say, I like it. I liked it all the time. And some people were ashamed to say I like it, because Tom was, he wasn't a fan of it. So when Tom says it's not good, it's not good. It can't be good, And that's why many people just, they wouldn't say, I like Cold Lake because it's not cool to like it. And now after 35 years, many people come and say, I always enjoy Cold Lake. It was a part of my life and I really dig it. And that's good to hear. It's great to hear, It's not, so you did something that meant a lot to a couple of people, and I love that.
Did you have any type of a relationship with Martin Eric Ain?
We were never. I played with him a short time in Celtic Frost. I played with Reed a short time with Celtic Frost, but we were never like close friends. We liked each other. I liked him a lot, and he was a great guy. But we never hung out together or went to a restaurant or something.
Did you do some of the touring for Into the Pandemonium? Did you?
No.
When you say you're in the band, because I
joined Celtic Frost when Reed and Martin were still in the band, and that's a nice story. When I came for the first time to the bunker, and the guys were there, I opened my guitar case and took out a light green Ibanez Jam guitar, and Martin was like, what's that color? It can't be true. He was like shocked. And he was a fun guy. So we rehearsed like 4 times together, and then, I don't know, Martin left, and then Reed, or the opposite way. And then Kurt and Steve came in. So I had a couple of rehearsals with the original Celtic Frost.
I've got to be careful about how I frame this next point, because then I'll start getting hate mail too from the hardcore fans. But Tom, as a songwriter, I'm only talking about output, given he's had Apollyon Sun and Triptychon. But he's told me directly, and I'll make my point, don't worry, but I'll just give more context. He's told me directly that he won't ever reform Celtic Frost. It's done. And that's primarily because Martin's not around anymore.
Yeah.
In your view, and I totally understand and respect that you're his mate. You're still good mates these days. But do you think he put too much emphasis on that relationship?
I don't know. I just know that Martin was and still is an important part of his life. And it was like a marriage somehow, with ups and downs. And I think there were a lot of fights, but there was always like coming back together. I think he was a really important part, and he still is. I think Tom is really still very sad about the absence of Martin. I don't know if that answers your question. Maybe I just didn't catch it.
It's certainly an answer. Yeah, it's just from the perspective that Hellhammer, Celtic Frost, Triptychon, Apollyon Sun, they all exist because Tom's the man. He's the bloke. And frankly, if it was just Tom and a bunch of ring-in musicians, you'd still find people turning up by their thousands.
Mm.
Okay, because he is so revered as the principal architect of the first generation of extreme metal. That's how revered Tom is. Okay, I think he's probably, him and Steve Harris, I think, are the two most important musicians in rock and in just to say heavy metal, you know, the whole thing. People will throw James Hetfield up there and stuff, but I'd have a slightly different take on that. Dave Mustaine would probably be the guy instead of James Hetfield, in my view, but I digress. Yeah, Tom's contribution is so significant, but he's told me, and this is on record, so it's not like I'm sharing anything I'm not meant to, that they even had a live recording that they produced that was together, and the estate of Martin, so I think it's Martin's brother, denied the release of the live recording. I just can't imagine why. And it's like Tom's given a lot of power to forces outside. I'm not sorry, I don't want to overstate the case. He's given power to the estate to have a say over Celtic Frost. When Martin's not here, it's Tom's vision. I know he shared it with a lot of people along the way, but I ask these questions just to get further context on some things that I've observed, that's all. And that's why your answer was a good one insofar as you did answer the question, so I appreciate it.
Yeah. And I think Martin was a very important part of Celtic Frost and Hellhammer.
Yeah, clearly essential, okay, from Tom's perspective. And as fans, we've got to respect that because we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. We only know what happens on the album and then, you know, if we listen to interviews or what have you. Yeah, fair enough, yeah. Just in relation to, I understand you're interested in all sorts of music, but do you have a take or a perspective on heavy metal and extreme metal about where it is right now?
Yeah, I have an opinion. I think it's sad to see it all, like the production is, I think it's awful today because everything is on grid, everything is to perfection. It feels more like sports to me than to have music, and it's lacking songs. Like songs that you can remember or riffs you can remember. You have all this down-tuned heavy shit that's always smacking your face, and you can enjoy it, but I think it doesn't stick too much in your head. I think when you go for like Usurper or like these riffs from Tom, they're memorable. You can sing it along, just like Black Sabbath riffs. And the new stuff is mostly, especially the drums, you know, you don't hear acoustic drums anymore. It's all trigger on the recordings and live as well. And it doesn't touch my soul anymore. You know, it's like, it's missing something. It's too sterile, too precise, and it's always dead loud. It's never loud and a bit like that. It's always like. So I don't listen too much to new metal music. I listen to old stuff, like Culprit, like stuff like, you know, old stuff. They always sometimes doesn't sound good at all, like from the production, but it's alive. It's, you know, you can hear little mistakes here and there, and it's something special. And maybe I'm just too old, I don't know. I just lost the connection to metal music because it's always on the grid. It's so much studio work. I always record my own songs. I'm into recording. I'm into mixing, producing. I know how you can kill a song. You can take out all the life of it. Just put it on the grid, and that's my opinion. That's why I'd rather listen to Derek Trucks. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah, he's brilliant. I love him. Love his playing. Yeah.
You know, and when you listen to the records, there's a lot of little things going on. It's never twice. You know, we also have this copy paste mentality. I played that part already. I need it there, so copy paste. That's it. And I think that takes away a lot of soul in the metal, because metal has soul too.
One perspective is that there's too much going on at home, meaning bands have too much access to the technology without the experience necessary. See, in the hands of an excellent producer like Arthur Risk, for example, is doing brilliant stuff. I just spoke to Max Cavalera yesterday about him. And he's making those old Sepultura albums that have been re-recorded by the brothers Cavalera, made them come to life. So he's breathed new life into them. There's a lot of really cool new music, but to your point, there's just so much new music. There's an ocean of it. And with everybody doing everything at home and not, they're trying to get, I want the guitars to sound like an updated version of what Scott Burns did. Then I want the drums to sound like Jens Bogren does. This is what they do, and then it ends up becoming, it's like trying to combine ice cream and seafood. You know what I mean? It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. It's really like, it's like picking all the boxes, and then it's heavy metal. Like, we need this, we need that, and then we have these amp sims, the amps simulations.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. No, I use it too, but I use like Fender amps and stuff like that to have a sound, because I can't record in here loud amps. But they always sound exactly the same. They had a one-knob Bogren guitar amp, and then they had the same drums from Superior Drummer or whatever. And hooray, you have 100 albums that sound the same. And when you listen back to old Judas Priest stuff, it's so different. For me, Judas Priest released their last good album with Screaming for Vengeance. People will kill me for that, but that was for me the end of Judas Priest, and then it became porno metal, I call it. It's like really, you know what you get. There must be screams, there must be double leads, check, check, check. And that's why I'm looking forward to the re-release of Rock'n'Rolla.
Oh, yes.
I loved it all. It's bands didn't think too much about it if it's okay for the fans. They were more adventurous, I think. And also you had bands in a studio playing together at the same time. Just like Cold Lake, the backing tracks, we recorded it in one room. So you had a live feeling. We didn't have click tracks and stuff like that.
Mm.
And I think that's also something.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you listen to Van Halen records, the early Van Halen records, they have tempo, changing tempo shifts in the songs like crazy. And you never said, oh, that sounds not good, it's not perfect. You just enjoyed it because it sounded great.
Yeah, I remember. I distinctly recall talking to Jeff Dunn Mantis from Venom about this topic, and his words are, he will admit he's nowhere near the greatest guitarist anywhere. He doesn't appear on any of those bloody awful lists that Rolling Stone put out or what have you. But how many people did he inspire to pick up the guitar? That's the question, because he had a unique style, and to your point, the Anthony's, Abaddon's drumming is going up and down in tempo, but that's what it was all about.
Yeah,
it was natural.
Yeah, and I think that's missing today in most kind of music. If it's you can take Lady Gaga, you can take whatever, it has the same problem. It's too good to be true. It's just all perfection, and then you have the loudness war, etc. I just listened recently to Led Zeppelin 3, a new remaster, and you can hear so many mistakes, so many rattling parts of the drums that shouldn't rattle. It's amazing. I love it. It's just, it makes me smile. It's like, it's a pleasure to listen to it, and you don't get ear fatigue. Your ears are not like after 5 minutes of you can relax sometimes, you come back, then it's loud, and I'm an old fart, I know.
No, I agree with everything you're saying, don't worry. Yeah. So on that note, what's your take on artificial intelligence, like the GPTs, Perplexity and Chat GPT?
I think it has a fantastic potential, but you shouldn't use it for music or for art. You can use it for to make any work easier, that it's not creative. But it's sad when you start to have AI work for you and you pretend this is my song, or this is my lyric, but you never wrote it. You said, ChatGPT, please write me 4 verses like blah, blah, blah. Here you go. I think it's spooky, you know. I tried a lot because always I want to be up to date what's happening. And I tried Udio, and when you type in heavy metal, 80s, blah, 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 it sounds like New Priest song. It's true.
It's weird.
And I think people will quickly fall into the trap to not recognize AI. You can see, like with the photographs, the fake photographs on Facebook. Oh, this nice landscape, blah, 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 photography, hashtag nature, and it's clearly AI. Or you see the ladies with 6 fingers, and then you say, come on, people, how about thinking? I think it's dangerous. I'm working in the graphic industries. I have a company who makes websites and print and stuff like that. And I can see that my clients just start to make their own stuff. Yes. And my job is bye-bye. So I think it's spooky, and I love a lot of stuff that you can make with it, but it shouldn't replace your creative process. It shouldn't touch it.
I feel like as though people are using it for commercial reasons. In other words, they're cutting out graphic designers and websites, this sort of thing, because they think it makes things a lot cheaper. But I still feel like as though we're some years away from it being integrated. And I know that the cream of the crop, when you go to Adobe, for example, Adobe stock, the images there, they don't look AI, and they are AI. Like I used one not too long ago just to see how it ages. But it's of a girl, very pretty girl, but she's completely AI.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I just saw an article about a platform like OnlyFans. It's like OnlyFans. You know that platform?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, and there is an OnlyFans for AI people. So people pay to see AI pictures of AI ladies.
That's weird. That's odd.
That's sad. That's pathetic. So you pay every month $20 to see the one lady, and you have new prompt. What's wrong with this world?
I guess that's a logical conclusion for the amount of porn that gets consumed, which is incredible when you look at the statistics. It's almost like the internet is still used just for porn.
Yeah.
But people are leading very isolated and siloed lives these days, where they don't feel it's a real issue in countries like Japan, and whereas only over there recently. Yeah, and there's you don't see boyfriends and girlfriends. You see older couples, but you don't see people underneath the age of 30. They may be there, but you go to Brisbane or whatever here, and you'll see boyfriends and girlfriends. Not in Japan, and it may keep on happening because people's lives are so digital. And I've got kids, and I see how integrated that their day to day is at school. They're 9 and 11, young ladies, and I see how integrated their day is at school. But we I'm with my wife, and we make sure that they get exposure to a lot of other things like sports and family outings and all the rest of it. But there's a lot of kids that come from broken homes, and they have a lot of time on their hands, and their whole reality becomes this digital interface. And it's very sad and almost shocking to see that that one thing that I thought we all had in common as a young fellow, which is that attraction to people and that sense of community that we all have.
Yeah.
And you see, that's why in jail, solitary confinement is the worst thing you can do to somebody, because then they're isolated away from people. But now we're choosing to do it because we feel as though, well, broadly speaking, the royal we feel as though the digital universe is an adequate substitute for actually having conversations.
So this becomes a friend,
Yeah.
And when we were young, we went to town, and we met, and we had fun, and we couldn't text before I'm coming 15 minutes. We had to be there to meet somebody. And when I'm living in the countryside, and I see people, young girls on horses with their iPhone.
Oh God, yeah.
And I think, hey, you're in nature, you're on a horse. Jesus Christ, what's wrong with you? But yeah, it changes. I think our dads thought we were crazy too. I don't know. In many perspectives, yeah. But AI, I think it came here to stay, and it won't go away.
No, it's only going to improve. I've had many conversations with my wife about that, particularly about social media. I mean, you've mentioned the impact that it's had on you, where people have waited 30 years to send you a message saying you're shit or
Yeah.
what have you. I mean, I don't. That's the one aspect. The only aspect I've got to be honest with you that I would change is the anonymity of it,
Yeah.
because even with my podcast, I made sure it's my name. It's the same name I sign legal documents with. It's me. And
Mm.
it's not about keeping me honest. I think I'm still a Christian, you see, so I still have that, eschatological approach. In other words, I'm still, preparing for the hereafter. I want to do the right thing because I want to do the right thing, but also too, I don't want to suffer terrible judgment is another aspect of it all. But with the anonymity, people can say all sorts of terrible things, and I'll almost guess correctly that a lot of the messages you receive are from anonymous accounts.
Yeah.
It's not
And
good.
I think it's so easy, to hate somebody over the internet. And I'm not a tall guy, but I think most people wouldn't tell me that when they just meet me.
No.
And some people said, "Excuse me," afterwards when I just wrote them, "Hey, what's wrong with you?" And I played on that record. And what's your problem now with me? Do you know me? Have you ever met me? And I said, "Yes, you're right. Okay." I said, yeah. It's like
yeah.
I call them keyboards warriors. They just have their keyboard and they can spread hate and whatever easily without having any impact on their lives. Because I don't know who it is, and they're far away. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, as I say, to repeat the point, that's the only. I don't feel like I don't think you can change that. There's no real mechanism or instrument you can put in place, because it's about people's morality. That's the key point. That's about so somebody rarely would use it. I can tell you, I don't think I've ever had anybody use their real name, have a dig at me on social media or Reddit or what have you. They're all using pseudonyms. So if you could change that, but I mean, what do you do? It seems to speak to a characteristic of humanity we'd rather not have there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What's next in terms of music? What have you got planned?
In that very moment, I'm mastering my new EP that's coming out in December, a 4-track EP. And I have another EP with Dead People's Clothes that should be released in next March.
Mm-hmm.
And I often release just songs and nobody will notice. I just put them out because I really I have a flow that I never experienced before. So I write and record a song within 2 days. That's it. It goes very quickly and I love it. It's just a new experience for me. I changed my songwriting method drastically, and it's just very easy going now for me. And if you like, I can send you my stuff. You can listen to it.
Yeah, please.
It won't be metal at all, but maybe you dig it.
Metal is but one genre that I listen to. I think it's like that for a lot of people. It's just that it's visually very appealing, and you can clearly see somebody who's into metal. But no, blues and rock and everything else is all just as relevant.
Yeah, no, and I won't be quiet. I don't see myself being quiet for the next 20 years. So I'm loving what I'm doing. I love to play guitar. It's like breathing air. Sounds very stupid and like very cliche, but I just need to have a relief, a musical relief. Even though I have not many feedbacks and not many listeners, but I'm going on. If you don't play live, if you don't have a label or something, you are under the radar at all. But yeah, it is like it is. I think I will never hit the stage again, which has a sad part and it's an okay part for me because it's not only fun to be on stage, and it's hard to find people that you, in a certain age, still can accept playing with them together. I don't have any nerves anymore for any fights in the rehearsal rooms or discussions. I like to work with people that are smooth and easy and just professional. So that's why I'm working with Jamie Parks, an English drummer, for many years now.
Mm.
It's so easy, and we never met, but it works. That's great thing about the internet. That's one of the very good things. I send him songs, he sends me the drums over. So that's how I stay in the scene, but I think I won't play live anymore.
Never know what the future holds, though.
Yeah, but I'm happy with it. I'm okay with it.
Would you be up for, you ask these questions because, why not? Would you be up for a reunion with Tom musically?
Not for Celtic Frost, but with Tom, I would love to do music. I think we have many things in common, and I think it could bring out something very cool. We even talked about it maybe 2 years ago, and it could happen. We never know, because I don't know how long Tom will continue with Triptychon and the Hellhammer shows. That's also it's hard. These shows are really exhausting and stuff like that. And maybe when we're in our 70s, we say we make a cool duo and make some Johnny Cash songs. I don't know. Yeah. Everything could happen. Two old men on stage.
There's no rules.
No
rules, is there? Let's just do what you feel like doing.
I would love to make with Tom music together again.
Mm.
And we'll see.
Well, there's fans out there that would love to hear it. You'd have an audience.
Yeah. Maybe I have to change my name, but that's not a thing.
No. There is a universal truth out there, and it's always had your name on it, mate. So just do keep on doing what you're doing for you. And
yeah.
I'll make this my last question for you, though. And look, it's you do have a story to tell. You've proven that. We've spoken for over an hour now. Have you ever thought about releasing a book or a biography?
No, I thought about it just because everybody thinks about it, but I'm not relevant. I think too many people write too many books. And if I'm Keith Richards, I may write a book because I made a lot of history. But I'm Oliver Amberg. I played on Cold Lake, and the book would be that thin. I don't think that people are really waiting for my story. Do you?
Yes, I do. And that's because I'm a writer and I've just finished a Norwegian black metal musician's book.
Oh.
And he had the tenure was brief, but it was significant in one of them. Yeah. And you're like that. So, yes, I think there's an audience out there. You'd probably have to self-publish, but who cares? To your point, you do things because you want to do things anyway. Look, it's all on the table, meaning that if ever one day you change your mind because you do feel like as though people need to actually hear what your story is, and a significant part of that, of course, is Cold Lake, go for it. Reach out to me. These things, they aren't hard to do, but it's getting the problem with extreme metal, and I just putting Cold Lake and Celtic Frost obviously, but Cold Lake in that basket is that there aren't a lot of books out there. I can count on two hands how many books there are out there. And unfortunately, and one for the sake of the recording, meaning what I'll put to air, but there's a lot of publishers out there. I'm not talking about major publishers, but more the metal press, and they're doing some stuff, and it's just the quality is absolutely terrible. it's really done for advertising's potential.
Yeah.
I think some of it is done with the best intentions in mind, which is to capture, but they're going about it in a way that I don't think adds to the legacy, summarizes the legacy. See, it's all about the way anybody can go. We can all go to Wikipedia these days, or ask the chat, or ask the GPTs about your career or anybody's career. Okay, but we want to know what you think and feel. That's the story. Getting to the bottom of things means actually providing broader perspective and context on an episode that has gone down. The Cold Lake episode is one of the most significant episodes in extreme metal history. It's up there for better or for worse. It is, because you can talk to any metal fan, like Serious One, and say Cold Lake, and they're going to have an opinion.
Yeah, right.
And that's my point. So you do have a story to tell.
Yeah.
What I hope, I'm certainly not, it's no boast, this isn't not my intention here at all to reframe history. But for anybody who gives a shit and actually wants to listen to you, I know there are other interviews out there, but I do feel like this is going to be the one that people can tune into now and see that you're actually a person and you went through that experience and there are reasons why things turned out the way that they did, and there you go. You provide that context that a book might be able to do, but podcasting is also a great medium for it. So, yeah, short answer is absolutely. I think you've got a story to tell, and if ever you want to tell that story, let me know. I'd love to help.
Yeah. Okay, I will remember.
Well, there you have it. What a fantastic fella. Oliver Amberg, former Celtic Frost guitarist, the guitarist that appeared and co-wrote and wrote many of the songs on Cold Lake. I really appreciated that he gave me so much of his time, allowing us to get to the bottom of things and having a general discussion. All right, if you know, or if you were in touch with someone that hasn't been in the spotlight for a long time, I'm thinking Mike Davis from Nocturnus, Rob Rousset from Cannibal Corpse. Those two fellas are right up there with Oliver. If you know somebody who deserves some recognition and you think can be convinced, or they maybe want to come on the show, they just don't know how to get in touch with me or whatever, I don't know, put them in touch with me. Simple. Because I'd love to have a chat to so many of these legends that have gone on to lead very different lives after they appeared on one or two albums from important bands. Just before I let you go, I asked Oliver if he could share a tune that I could share with you. And here it is. This one's called Angry, and he tells me that it's about people who spread hate through the internet. Yes, indeed. A pertinent topic, isn't it? My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith. I'm the host of Scars and Guitars. Until the next one, it's a goodbye for now.
A phantom lord